Hello, Nudgestockers. Is everyone warm enough? We might need a cool Cruzcampo, I think. Okay, Marta, Roberto, welcome. We're going to talk about the simple power of a behavioural science reframe. But before we get to the simplicity, let's talk about the messiness. Marta, I wonder whether you could give us some context. Where was the brand in 2019? Where was Cruzcampo? What was keeping you up at night?
Well, all of you, I think you have to close your eyes and think that you're in the beautiful Andalusia. I think already the weather is kind of similar. And that you're desperate to have a wonderful, fresh, and very cold beer like Cruzcampo. But the reality is that, well, beer is quite a nice category. It's a category that, apart from being very functional and giving refreshment, it's a category that is really emotional, and it has like an extra layer that is really related to popular culture and really represents the identity of consumers. And this was the case of Cruzcampo. Cruzcampo has been kind of an amazing icon for many, many years, and it's been loved to levels that you cannot imagine. We could show you thousands and thousands of photos of people that they are like, with the logo, the tattoos, even they use it in their tombs. I could tell you amazing stories. But at the same time, you know that love and hate seems to be quite close. And this is a story of probably one of the ones that we have encountered in our careers that I have suffered the most, at least. I don't know you, Roberto.
Yeah, one of the worst.
Because when I landed in Heineken, Spain, and I found this amazing brand, at the same time, in social media, I started to look at, oh my God, we have 40% of, in social media of very negative sentiment. So it was a love brand, but it had a lot of haters. And we were not able even to understand where this hate was coming from, to be very honest with you. We were trying to understand what did we do wrong, why is this happening? And we discovered a few things. First is that we were so big that, of course, when you're big and powerful, you create a bit of haters by itself. But also it's because we were very different. We are probably the most bitter beer with a very, very unique taste, that it was kind of, is the beer that refreshes the most, because the bitterness helps you to refresh. But instead of being understood by some customers as a positive, people were saying that it was too bitter. But it became like a kind of excuse to hate us, and an excuse sometimes to say that we were not good enough. And this became a big, big problem for us. And we suffered quite a lot in the process, because when we were discussing with the agency at the beginning, you could see the team being very shy and say, let's ignore it, let's ignore social media, it will go. Of course, it doesn't go.
It never does, no, by the way.
It gets bigger and bigger. The second thing, we try to be very naive and answer literally, say, no, let's say that we are super cool, and it doesn't work. And at one point, we were a bit stuck. No?
Yeah, there was a moment like even we were in the space of embracing that and making fun of that, but it didn't quite work at the end, because we weren't like really solving the problem or achieving the behavior.
Yeah. And Roberto, you received the brief.
Yes.
People are laughing at us. People are making memes of us.
Yes.
Where do you start? Where do you start to unpick that challenge?
Well, it was like in a meeting in Seville. At that time, I wasn't there. It was my first month probably in the company. But Marta gave us like this huge brief. Like it was like full of pages. Like
that is a lot of feedback on social media, isn't it? Yeah.
And it was like, but it's like it's interesting to understand like why the right brief with the right amount of information can help the creatives to start working, or the agency to start working, because it's not just creatives here. But these are some of the quotes. So Marta can like say that, and she said like perfectly, this is one of the biggest challenges that we will encounter as professionals. She said, no resting, as the Cruzcampo becomes an iconic brand again. And she say at the end, we need a cultural phenomenon, a campaign capable of transcending marketing that creates a cultural trend. So sounds easy? No, no. It was quite of like, I mean, knowing where we were at the time, that it was like one of the hatest, alcoholic brands, and the taste was a thing, and how we could achieve that. So the team was kind of like, okay, this is like a great opportunity, it's a big challenge, we need to find a platform. But at that moment, we were like, okay, what we should do first, if we don't know how to change the behavior, if we don't have the weapons, we don't have the knowledge to that, and that's why we said, like, ultimately, we need to change that behavior, so we call behavioral science.
We send a B-size signal out that we all respond to when we see it, yeah.
It's just because we invited you to Seville.
Yes, yeah, and also that, yeah, it's tough work, but it was great. Yeah.
It was fun because at the beginning, I remember not everybody knew what it was, including me. And it was Alfonso who was like introducing us, the former president of Ogilvy. He introduced us to the discipline, and we were like, okay. And then we met you and Sam, and we do a bunch of like work, and we started doing the workshop, and then the magic it already happened. So first thing, like these guys came to Spain and started talking about surfers and salmons, and we were like, what? Like we're selling beers. I was like, what's a surfer? What's a salmon? I'm a surfer? I'm a salmon? I don't know. Like, I'm both. And then we started learning about this like terminology of behavioral science, the practical effect, the fresh start effect. And we were like kind of like surprised, amused, but at the same time, we were like, oh my God, I've been controlled all my life and I didn't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's kind of like the robot understanding that it's a robot.
And it's set in the right conditions that we can start to explore some of these different strategies as well.
Yeah. I think it was amazing. And then, of course, we discovered the idea of the reframe. After like a bunch of work, we knew that we needed to do a workshop, and it was like seriously like a 2 or 3 days of workshop with the whole team, strategy, creatives, client. Everybody was involved in that, and there was a bunch of information to come up with something that could start putting the pillars and the basis for what it would be the final platform. So
that was just pre-COVID, so I looked loads better then. I just want to say that.
Right, 2 months before COVID.
Yeah.
See people like getting together, touching each other, and having drank.
Yeah,
of course.
Yeah,
there was a lot of beer. It was very intense. Think about like a bunch of people that has never been involved in a kind of like a workshop like this. So it was a surprise, but learning all the time. For me, it was a fantastic experience, and I know from Marta that it was too. So basically, then we knew that we have this sort of like brand framework. We knew what it was, the brand essence. We needed to find the tone. We needed to find the strategy, territories, and finally the brand idea. So this is kind of a boring, but like sometimes you have to fulfill the things and that. So the brand essence was like true joy comes from being yourself. That was part of the brand. Brand in the bottle. That was like, Marta? The brand in the bottle. And suddenly one day we were talking about the Andalusian people and the culture and like, the brand itself, and we came up with this, everybody's extravagant. And extravagant is a very, very interesting word. It's a very, very interesting territory to play around. So we talk about surprisingly extravagant. And then, of course, we were like, okay, we need to signify this. We need to find out what it means in the culture, what it means in this new generation. Because part of the challenge was the taste and the opinion and the haters. But the other part was like we were losing market in their own region based on like the brand was exposing the typical consumer as the classic Andalusian, but the generation was changing, and there was like a new kind of generation trying to represent the same tradition, the same Andalusian culture, but in a different way. And that's when we started like digging around, is like what it means to be surprisingly extravagant in this new generation. And then finally we came up with these two sort of like roads. One was like, we are proudly different, and we are also Southern heritage. Two things that Marta has said, you know, it's like, we are different, and we are from the South. And then finally, I mean, we can go through this as much, like, there's a lot of information, but like, I'm gonna try to go very fast.
And I think this was, not to downsell our work and the time we take, but this was after one day, I think, wasn't it?
After like a couple of days.
Yeah, just started to really refine what some territories might be.
And also, like, I don't know how many of you have been involved in this kind of process, but this is sometimes is very boring and very like, you know, tedious, and it's not easy to find things. And we were, with the help of Behavioural, we were like very, very much into advancing very fast, and also like unblocking doors to things that we weren't thinking about, like a possible. Okay, it's all right. Yeah.
Are we back?
So finally, we end up with these three things: the accent, the taste, and the joy. And finally, we pick up the accent, which is, if you don't know, people from South Spain, they have a specific accent. It's a very, very strong accent, and sometimes they've been bullied by that. So again, we have like two things that are connected perfectly to the product, to the brand. They're from the South, and they've been bullied. And so what we can do with that? Because we're saying we're proudly different. So we're not a lager. And this was like kind of Marta explaining. It's like people were comparing us to simple lagers, but it's a different brew process. It's a different taste. So when you think, when you can tell people, hey, I'm not a lager, suddenly your brain starts thinking, oh my God, I've been comparing this beer to other beers based on what I thought versus what I know. So we are an accented beer. So, so now we have the strategy, we have the platform, we have something to talk about that it makes us different. And then that little thing that you have there, for most of you that are like English speakers or like other language speakers that don't use this little thing goes over some characters in Spanish and French and other languages, and it's called accent. So we wanted to find this to signify a little bit the campaign, like having a symbol, something that we can use all over. But also we wanted to go into what the brand was talking about, traditions in a new way of seeing. So we wanted to respect that, but in a new way. We wanted to talk about more like the natural things that happen. We wanted to, we didn't need to discover new things. We were like looking around Andalusia, looking for the colors, looking for the textures, and everything was there just to create the recipe. It was a very easy.
And even when you talk about changing category, we talk sometimes about you can do that within a literal sense. You can be in a bit different place in the supermarket. Suddenly you're not a soda now, you're an energy drink. But you can do that psychologically as well. You can say if you are judging us by one attribute, we are no longer that attribute. Suddenly it's a different conversation.
Absolutely. So, and finally, we were like looking into this process of like typography, the kind of words that we were going to use, like a new generation words and things that people were saying in the street that are no longer passed to the other generations. And so we came up with this whole visual system based of symbols, based of like shapes. They could be containers, they could be like expressive. We can point to different new artists from the new generation. But it was like all full of energy and joy, but like mixing tradition with the new life, the new kind of artists, the new collectives, the new musicians, the new people. I mean, we were like connecting all the dots, and it was like, that's why when you have something so fertile, it's so easy to grow up things there, you know? And it was like a very, very beautiful, but also like pushing forward, because there was a moment that some part of the team were like, sorry, Marta, they were saying, they're not going to buy this. And I was like pushing them to more aggressive, more punk, more street, more like, you know, hip hop style, more things. And they were like, oh my God, this guy is crazy. And then the client was like, I love it. And Marta was, I love it. This is what we need. It's like a reframe of the whole brand, not just the platform, not just the thing. It's also like how you speak. We need it to be an accented brand. And finally, we needed a crazy idea, the cultural phenomenon. And part of what happened is like I didn't write, but the team wrote a beautiful manifesto, a brand manifesto, but we needed a voice. And the person that we thought will be perfect for this was a transgenerational person, very extravagant, very polarized, but loved by all the Spaniards, and she was from the South. The only problem is she was dead.
25 years ago.
25 years ago.
Yeah.
So we thought like how we can make her talk. And so I'm gonna let the campaign speak by itself.
Tú sabes por qué a mí se me entendió en todo el mundo. Por el acento. Y no solo me refiero a la forma de hablar, que también me refiero a ese pellizco, a esa forma con la que te llenas el pecho de alegría, con la que rebañas un huevo frito, con la que te pintas el rabillo del ojo. Acento es que se te vean las costuras y los dobladillos, que se te escucha hasta el hipo. Da igual si eres de la Conchinchina o de la línea de la Concepción, cajero del supermercado, catedrática o ministro. Manosea tus raíces, que de ahí siempre salen cosas buenas. A todo esto lo llaman ahora empowerment, ¿no?
Sí, Lola, pero tú siempre lo llamaste poderío. Con mucho acento.
El acento es tu tesoro. No lo pierdas nunca.
Round of applause. I mean, no longer are we laughed at, no longer do we have a bit of taste, we are now accented. I mean, the simple power of a reframe, you don't change the thing, you just change consumers' perception of the thing, which you can do with the stories that you tell. I mean, we're close to time. Marta, I'd just love to understand from a client's perspective, how does behavioural science help sell in some of this bold work internally, release it more confidently?
Well, I'm not going to lie that it was easy the first time. Well, I have to say that the marketers, the first time that they came with the idea, I could see my team is from the south of Spain, they were crying. And me being from the north, that it was a completely different, I was like, I couldn't even breathe. So it was very, very refreshing, and it was surprising.
Yeah.
And it was not easy to sell it. My boss was French, so it was impossible. Are you telling me that you're bringing a person that was dead 25 years ago to attract the new generations? Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I really believe that the power of doing this is enormous, and the power of reframe is incredible. Elevates creative output, and it really helps you to solve problems the way it should solve problems. I love what you said this morning about this, about winning an argument, and this is what we tried for 2 years, winning an argument and trying to say, yes, we are good, until we understood that was not about that. That was about telling the narrative in a completely different way, in which we were like just taking the hearts of the people and really making them remember what our brand was about. It was one of the best campaigns.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're at time, but it'd be great, kind of 10 seconds on impact, Roberto.
Let me show you, like, people on TikTok, they were, like, using the voice of the accent. They were replicated that, and of course, like, we end up being, again, a tattoo. So it's funny, because I always thought about, like, something that I'd say to my teams. It's like, every time you show me something, think about it, because I'm going to tattoo it on you. It's a way to say, don't show me things that you don't like. But I always thought about, like, can I do something so meaningful that people will tattoo it? And also, like, the power of, like, the behavior change it was so huge that we got messages from Italy, Mexico, UK, from Germany, from South America, from US, people telling us that they were seeing the campaign and they thought they were touched by the message because they thought they were like being bullied by their accent, and their career was also cut through because of that. And suddenly they decided to embrace the accent and not hide it anymore. So for me, that is even bigger than any marketing achievement.
Embrace your defaults. Embrace your faults. The power of a reframe. We'll drink to that.
One thing, because many of you probably you live in the UK, I think we were so successful that our team from the UK has decided to launch Cruzcampo in the UK. So you probably will find it somewhere.
You will see it soon. Roberto, Marta, thank you so much. Thank you.